Oh
They
my
rent.
goodness, I was thinking Mama was down low.
So they mean they were sharing with the owner.
Well, my mother was a sharecropper.
She was I see, didn't I say? The rich folk.
So to say that is to say now, if Miss Harris's people were even underneath the sharecroppers people, then they must have been so poor, it was just crazy. You know, because we thought my mother, that her family was, when Frankie and I went south, we went to this place called Tallahatchie Flats. You can look it up on the computer.
In Monee, Mississippi.
Mhm.
Monee, Tallahatchie Flats. I think it would be really illuminating for some of you all to see what the houses look like that the people lived in.
So these people, some guy who had money, he came
down from California.
and he fixed these flats up. It's a whole little community of flats, and what he did, he set it up where how the sharecroppers lived back in the day. Europeans come now to America just to rent one of the flats so they can get a feel for how sharecroppers lived in the South during the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. Listen, the place would literally bring tears to your eyes, the way people were living. And so I could really see when people came to Wentworth Gardens, this was really
Big time.
big time.
Ooh, baby.
This was considered, now think about this, these are people who are migrating from the South, coming here to the North. They are living still in squalor positions. I think we talked a little bit about, my mother lived.
She lived on 39th and Lake Park in a kitchenette. And the kitchenette was, from what I'm understanding, you shared the bathroom and the kitchen with other people in the building, but you had your own bedroom. So my mother
You just shared the bathroom, right?
No, she said kitchen too.
Oh,
The kitchenette was the whole big room. The whole big room. You didn't have no bedroom, you didn't have no dining room, you didn't have no kitchen. You just had, the kitchen was a little part like this. You go up in a little chute. Stove on this side and a little counter like on that side. But the living room had a bed in the wall. You pull the bed down, that's your bed. And the couch was in there. And that's why they call it a kitchenette. That's what I lived in.
Now, I'm not sure if that's the setup she had there on 39th and Lake Park, because the way she described it to me was she shared the kitchen and the bathroom with other people in the building. So here we are now, approximately 1951, and she came to Wentworth Gardens, and she thought she had come to heaven. Because here you are, you've got your own bathroom, you got your own kitchen, you got your living room. She thought she was in heaven. They were happy. And now we come to talking about our life here in Wentworth Gardens.
But you know what, Frankie, though, before you go there, let's talk a little bit about how we did on the last one, when we talked about how the people were taking pictures when they had first opened up Wentworth, and you can see the pictures where people are dressed up.
The name of that book is The Poorhouse, by, I think his name is D. Bowley, and he's got a new book out. But in that book, he has a picture of the people. It was a huge crowd that had come to put in application to come to live in Wentworth Gardens. And they thought it was a big deal because they came in their suits and they were dressed up. So if you get a chance, look at the book and look at the picture of the people coming to put in the application to reside here.
And that was what, 1945?
I think it opened up here in 1947, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And then with that said, they had a really big screening process, and we kind of talked about that a little bit when we were here last, where we were saying that was part of the breakdown. I think that Miss Harris, she was telling us
that it took like almost 10 to like it was like 10 or 15 years to get up in here. Cause my mom, she said after she left her kitchenette, she ended up getting up. No, she went to many places. She went from 63rd Inglewood area to then a majority of her other places was like on Indiana, Prairie, and stuff like that. And these were like basement apartment. Then she finally got an apartment down here on 37th and Well near this store called Sammy's. And when she got that apartment, she said she would walk past this community. And she said, she used to tell us how she used to go past it every day and say a prayer and be like, oh Lord, if you could just get me in here. And during that time, she used to just go across the street because Stateway and Wentworth was kind of together. And that's where the aid office was.
It was.
So she used to just walk over there to the aid office and come back, and she had already applied for it, but she just thought in a million years she would never get it. Because, you know, during that time, my mama used to say that it was all about the men's when it came down to the black families. Men's was the head of everything. So if she had got that apartment and they, you know, her being married, because all our, you know, women that come from the South, they came here basically married. They really wasn't having a lot of kids out of wedlock. They were young having them. But like my older one, when she had the rest of us, she was married. And my father was in our life to his passing day.
Our father was
And she said she
Yes,
was coming in
yeah,
every
he was in the house.
day. And she said finally they called her. She didn't know should she tell her husband or just go on down there. Some told her to go down there and see what's going on, because you know during that time the men thought they could think everything. His mother was sending money, apartment could be in her name. So she wasn't your apartment in your name? Oh. So when they found that she was married, I know, because they found that she was married. They thought she wasn't married, but when they found out she was married, it had to go in his name.
They was not taking single peoples in here at that time.
Look at that.
Okay.
And that was
You had to
1960,
be
what, Miss
married.
Harris?
Yeah.
19 what?
66.
66.
You know, what I think is interesting about that too, when I was growing up, I came here in 51. I remember, my father died when I was 7. But I remember so distinctly it was a Mr. and Mrs., Mr. and Mrs., Mr. and Mrs., all through the community. And then one day I woke up and not only was my daddy gone, it seemed like all the other, everybody was on the men. What happened?
All the men were gone.
I don't know what happened.
That was because
Public aid?
public aid. And the men didn't have no good stable jobs, you know, at that time. They just wasn't hiring black men too much unless they had a lot of education and things. And the women had to go and get a job to help the family, you know. And they found out, they brought this program on public aid called General Assistance. That's where anybody could get on public aid.
Minus the man.
Minus the man, right. And then they started saying that I went and got my public aid, and I had to tell them my husband wasn't at home. What? And they did that, and that messed up the family. And public aid said, it better not be no man in there.
And they searched their house.
They came in and searched the house, they went in your closet. It's a picture out.
Claudine.
Boy, that Claudine hit that spot, honey. I'm telling you, where the way they was treating the people that was on public aid.
Treating y'all. Treating us.
So this is what started a lot of the single people.
Social dysfunction.
Then CHA started saying, let the single women come in because that's the way they out there now. And then the single women started coming in with public aid. And you see, that wasn't no whole lot of money they had to pay for rent, you know. So CHA was just trying to get money the best way they could, you know. And they had a direct line with public aid. Because I know I got a job up here. I worked for 2 years. And I know they just get on the phone and call them about the resident. And that's how they was getting their money and kept the peoples in order. Until the people just stopped getting out of order again. Then the first thing we knew, the peoples that was working, CHA was putting them out. They raised their rent up to $800 a month. Now, back in them days, $800 was a lot of money to pay for rent. They was paying
With the way you
$900.
And then this way, people had to
They had
take
to
the
move.
choice. If you couldn't afford to pay the high rent, then you left and you moved out of the Wentworth Gardens and you went where you could afford to live.
But it wasn't only that, with them raising the rent. At the same time, I think they were relaxing the rules, because whereas they had really strictly enforced you having certain criteria before you moved in, they changed that.
They changed
They
that.
stopped
Mhm.
looking at what the people had, who they were with, who was in the family,
Right.
and they kind of started letting anybody in.
Anybody.
So whereas the people who are making money and working wanted to stay here, they're being forced out because
They
they're
forced
raising their
all of them
rents.
out,
And
baby.
then these other people are coming in with little or no income, and they have little, nothing to bring to the community,
They let them stay.
and they let them stay. And the good people are moving out, bad people moving in.
Mhm.
Now let's
And I
talk.
kept telling
Okay.
CHA that. I said, do y'all see what you all is doing? I said, you tearing down our neighborhoods, you know.
I did a study with this group called Focus Scope. Y'all might have heard of them. And they asked us, when you heard the name Project, what did you think? You know, and I had never looked at it like that. Like they said, well, this is a project, that's a project. I just looked at it like a project, a development. I never looked at it as though when you grab that dictionary or encyclopedia and look up the word project. It was a design.
Most people
It was already designed. If I feed you, clothe you, house you, will you grow and go? Or would you stay at a standstill? So when they had us behind these screens, and they was really telling us how this was all just something designed like mices. You know how they do testing on mices? They used us as animals, the rodent. They could at least call us an ape. He is intelligent, but they gave us like a rat, a rodent. And they put us in this maze, and they fed that rat, and they gave that rat comfort, you know, in this little cage. And then they took everything away. The rats started eating each other. That is how that's how they looked at it. We're gonna do all this, and then now we're gonna cut their public aid, which President Obama said with his mother, you know, food stamps is what fed him. So we're gonna take their money. First they took the money. So that now your babies don't have no more shoes like they used to. Then when they seen that couldn't break us, because when you poor, only thing can really break you is being homeless. Then they cut your food stamps. So I don't care if you had 10 kids, you ain't getting no more than $250 in stamps. Then when they seen that didn't break us, they had to come up with another rule. Well, they're gonna fall, so they put all these strikes on us. If a child get caught smoking reefer now, I know this is just something that we don't talk about. But every kid have tried something. You might not try to smoke a joint, but you'd have sipped in your mama's liquor. She'd have told you to put that can of beer in the garbage and you got that last swallow. See, to us, that's to you all, you like, got away. To us, it's gonna criminate us. We lose our home because of that. I wish I could laugh when it comes down to that. But what it does to us, we lose our home. When you lose your home, you lose the little stamps you got too now, because now you homeless. And you sleeping up under the bridge and people wondering why you there. So it was a project, but we wasn't looking at it like the dictionary project. We was looking like community project. This just a project, like ghetto. They call it a project as in ghetto, as in poor black people. But it was not that. It was an actual project. First they gave it to us pitiful.
Get it straight.
It was an experiment.
That they was working on. A
And
project is something you are working on and you gonna fix it one day.
right.
You know. that's
So,
what a
and
project
in this end, I gotta sum it up. When they start taking, first, like I said, they took the cash. They start taking the medical card. When the kids turn 18, you wasn't able, normally you go get your own medical card when you turn 18, but they took that. They lessened the food stamps. Now, since they couldn't do it, they just tore the building down. They tore all our community down. And when they put us on any and everybody block, what we start doing? What they say start happening? Killing, harassed.